Hello, Ellen. Can you hear me? Okay,
Hello.
there you are. Welcome to Hiker's
Well,
Dream.
finally.
Yeah, finally. Say, I hear you're going on a hike.
That's right. A week from today, we get on the Great Silver Bird and fly to Paris and then get down to Saint Jean, Pied de Port, to hike the Camino Frances.
Oh, that's you today you're leaving?
Next week, a week from today.
Week from today. Okay. Well, I'm glad I caught you before your hike. Um, I'm Val. They call me Landslide on the trail, and this is Hiker's Dream, and I interview hikers to promote them, promote hiking and the environment. So I caught you on somewhere out there in the internet, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you about your hike and your experiences with hiking, and maybe you can give us some background first about who you are and what you've done so far.
Okie doke, particularly with relevance to hiking.
Yeah,
I grew up in the flatlands of central Illinois. Once upon a time, the Great Prairie. And now in Champaign County, Illinois, where I grew up, there's houses and the university and soybeans and corn and soybeans.
mhm.
The opportunities for outdoor recreation near where I lived when I was a youth were limited, shall we say. But fortunately, when I was 12, I guess, I joined the Boy Scouts. And coincident with my joining the Boy Scouts, there was a change of regime, the leadership with this particular Boy Scout troop, number 7. And the new adults that came on as leaders were just terrific. And they were very much kind of, let's go do stuff, as in camping and hiking and all that stuff. So I got introduced to hiking through Boy Scouts because that was, something to do and being outside, which I'd already always enjoyed doing. And my first overnight hiking experience was in the Philmont Boy Scout Ranch in northern New Mexico when I was 13, I think, 1960. You've seen World War II surplus backpacks that were made out of plywood and canvas
Yeah,
and weighed
I
about,
remember. Yeah.
I don't know how many pounds a piece. But that was my first exposure to overnight camping. And so I got interested in it. I didn't do a whole lot of hiking and such after that. I guess I just didn't get totally bitten by the bug. I was interested, but not just totally excited about it. And when I really got going with hiking was in the summer of 1972. I was teaching high school, and I took the summer off and went on a road trip and went hiking in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Bishop and out on the Olympic Peninsula in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and even best of all, the Wind River Mountains in central Wyoming. So I found the Wind River Mountains so enticing and wonderful that I went back pretty much every year for, gosh, 10, 15 years, something like that. It was just so wonderful. So I got really interested in that. And these were kind of week-long trips to be in the outdoors and camp out and go fishing and enjoy the birds and the bees and that sort of stuff.
Have you done any of the major trails like PCT or AT?
Yes, yes. So in December of 2007, when I was 61, I think, I was poking around on the web one night and came across a website for the John Muir Trail in the Sierras. I'm sure I'd heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. This guy who had hiked the trail the previous summer posted 100 of the most captivating photographs I think I'd ever seen. And as I looked at those photographs and my eyes got bigger and bigger and bigger, I said, I am hiking the entire John Muir Trail next summer.
Mhm.
I didn't have the faintest idea in the world how I was going to do that.
Yeah.
But it was so exciting and so wonderful that I figured subconsciously, I'll figure it out. I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. And I did. And that got me going. Partly because during that hike, I ran into people who knew about the Pacific Crest Trail. And as it happens, the about 175 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail, the PCT, overlap with the John Muir Trail. And from what these people said, the PCT was even cooler than the John Muir Trail, although I found that hard to believe. So I finished the John Muir Trail. It turns out with a nasty case of plantar fasciitis. I barely made it down to the Whitney portal. I was just struggling and struggling, but I made it. And something really interesting happened that fall and winter, and that is that the memory of my excruciating pain in my right foot kind of went away. I knew it happened, but wow. it just didn't affect me emotionally anymore. And those good moments on the John Muir Trail that I so loved got brighter and bigger and more colorful and interesting. And that winter, I decided I'm going to hike the entire Pacific Crest Trail in one go. I didn't have any idea how I could possibly do such a thing. And in the moment, it didn't quite dawn on me that, hey, let's see now, 5 months hiking, that means I can't do my ecological consulting work from April into September. Ooh, that's not good. So I decided, well, I'll put that off for a while. But then my wife, bless her heart, said, well, Alan, look, next summer, why don't you hike the Colorado Trail? It's an hour from our home here in Boulder. At first I thought, well, yeah, the Colorado Trail. Yeah. But after a while, Betsy said, look, don't be stupid. It's 500 miles. It'll be great. So I finally realized the wisdom of her counsel, and I hiked that, and it was great. It was just wonderful. And I had, by that time, I'd realized that per the counsel of Warner Springs Monty, the PCT guy, when the weight goes down, the fun goes up. And I cashed in my Wilderness Experience aluminum frame pack for a much lighter one, and across all my gear, I got lighter weight gear, and it was just so much more enjoyable to hike with lighter gear. So then I thought, well, okay, I did that. What am I going to do now? So I decided, I know what I'll do. I'll hike the John Muir Trail again, this time with lightweight gear. It was a completely different experience. It was just so wonderful, because I wasn't just dragging down the trail in my heavy leather boots with my gigantic pack stuffed to the gills with this, that, and the other.
What was your base weight when you went down light? About?
Oh, I would guess 12 pounds, maybe.
That's good. Good.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out I still wasn't quite ready to hike the PCT, and I hiked the Colorado Trail again. Wonderful experience. And then finally, I got around to hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. It was the most wonderful thing I've ever done. It was a life-changing experience. And for your viewers, if you can figure out a way to make it work, it's worth the wait and worth the hassle to get a permit and all that rigmarole.
What year did you do that? Great. What year was it?
I started off in 2013, which was a low snow year in the Sierras, which I knew that was a big deal, so I didn't have to wade through snow. Unfortunately, at mile 1061 in the McCollum Wilderness south of South Lake Tahoe a little ways, I attempted to cross a stretch of icy trail on the side of Mount Raymond and slipped and hurtled 100 feet down this icy gully and slammed into a boulder, which was, it did some bad things to me. And fortunately, I got rescued and went home, spent some time in the hospital, went home. I couldn't do any more hiking that fall. But it was really that accident. It was completely my doing. I was just stupid. And long distance hikers will appreciate this. When I was standing there at that stretch of icy trail, 20 feet long, I could have just backed up on the trail, gone around it, easy peasy. But my conscious mind was hijacked by my stomach. And the prospect of stuffing my face at the all-you-can-eat buffet at Harris Casino, a mere 30 miles up the trail, pulled me forward like a zombie.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good thing to do.
Well, did you
But I
go
learned a
back
lot
and
from
did
I
you go
did.
back and finish?
Yes. So
Yeah.
when I got home, I was feeling sorry for myself and kind of and all. But fortunately, I'm not sure how this happened, but it dawned on me that being a sourpuss and moping around probably wasn't really helping me heal better, and it wasn't making me any happier. I'm sure it wasn't endearing me to my wife. So I decided, well, okay, so here I am. How do I get better? How do I get strong so I can get back on the trail the next year? I was just totally committed to that. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. So I started reading books that Betsy got out of the Boulder Public Library. And it didn't take me long to realize, hey, this business of physical activity to stave off chronic diseases like diabetes and all that, it's a huge deal. Plus, eating better. You hear that all the time, eat your vegetables, all that sort of stuff. It's a big deal. So I kept reading, and I eventually, over the course of that year, I started taking my own advice. And by the time I got back on the PCT in 2014, I was in first class shape and I finished the trail.
Did you start off where you left off, or did you go to the beginning again?
Now, in deference to Betsy, not being gone for the entire 5 months, I thought that would be going to the well too often.
Okay.
So I started 10 miles before the spot where I fell. And on that first day, I got to that spot, no ice that time. And I looked down what was an icy gully the previous year, and I thought, there is no way I survived that experience.
Oh.
And there was no way I was able to actually crawl back up out of the icy gully on that rotten volcanic rock crap up to the trail. And there was no way Matt and Joe were able to land their helicopter.
Jeez.
So as I stood there looking at that, I thought, well, how do I explain all these low probability events? And I thought, well, maybe there was some element of divine intercession in all this, which didn't really satisfy my scientific mind, but I couldn't think of a better explanation.
Yeah, you had trail magic there, real trail magic.
Oh, I did, big time.
Now,
one of the reasons why the PCT was so impactful to me was the kindnesses and the support I received from complete strangers on the trail.
Right.
And just from the get-go, from the instant I landed at the airport in San Diego, and Scout and his wife picked me up at the airport. I kept track of all these wonderful things that people did for me. And it turned out I counted 144 separate acts of kindness bestowed upon me during the entire Pacific Crest Trail hike.
Yeah.
And that made me a more grateful and generous person as a consequence. And I have talked to many, many long distance hikers, and they say the same thing. It changed me for the better.
The community support you get, you don't see that out in life, in the civilization life, but you see it here, how it could be, how it really could be.
Yes, that's exactly right.
My son and I did the Pacific Crest Trail in 2014, but you were ahead of us. We started April 26th, so I imagine you started way ahead, and we ended September 16th. But
yeah, I ended
the same year.
September the 8th.
Okay, so you're a little bit ahead of us.
Hmm.
But low snow year,
Yeah.
not a lot of rain, so we were there too that year.
Yeah.
Good. Now, another interesting thing you mentioned before was the how the memories, the torture and the pain and the suffering, those memories kind of get moved aside, and you just remember the beautiful scenery and the feelings you get of the satisfaction, the fulfillment you get. Well, me too. I had a struggle. We climbed Whitney. I came down, and all through this time before, a few weeks before, I couldn't hardly pee. My prostate had been swelling
Ooh,
up, so I could hardly
not good.
pee. And by the time I got to Bishop, I couldn't pee at all. I couldn't.
Ooh,
Nothing came out, so I was just full of urine, and I had to go to the
ooh.
medical center. They put a bag on me. I mean, they drained like I don't know how a liter, I don't know how much lots. So I had to wear a bag for 2 days. I thought my trip was finished, but no, when
Sure.
they took it off, I could pee again. It was better than before. So I got to continue. But I don't remember that much. It's a good story, but those memories don't compare to the good memories in hiking. It's just
Yes.
so much more you get from
Right.
it. I mean,
I have read in the psychological literature that we humans um, are built that way because if we focused in this sort of visceral memory part of us on all these nasty things that happen to us, either just out of coincidence or whether we bring on ourselves, by the time we get to I don't know how many years old, we just couldn't function anymore.
no, well,
We'd
you'd
be
be,
so bent out of shape by
yeah,
all the things that happen to us. So it makes sense, not in a kind of Pollyanna-ish way, I'd say, but to savor the things that are wonderful in our lives and to acknowledge that yes, these things happened and they were painful, and hopefully I can learn from those experiences, but I'm not going to dwell on it.
it's attitude. I mean, that's why people go to drugs. They don't handle it. And it's just about facing it and deal with it, and then go on. But you see, when you deal with it and face it, you, in a sense, overcome it. You can overcome it through your ability to recognize, that that's just one part. There's more parts, and if you just keep going, you'll be okay. But you got to keep going, and that's what we learn in hiking too. The stamina, endurance it takes to go through the rain and snow and heat and hunger and all that. You keep going,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
what taught me that I can do it. I mean, it was literally torture. So, really, I had never backpacked before. I mean, 5 days of backpacking. But the LA mountains, all those beginning part, it was just torture. But I did it, and I'm better off for it. Now I know I can do
Yes,
it. It's
yes,
in me.
that's right.
So it's got a
Yeah,
lot of
I
value. Hiking has a lot of value. That to show you how much potential you really have within you.
that's that's one of the things I learned from my accident.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
when I got home, I started thinking about this and sort of how to process it. And what I came up with was that everybody, including me, has a deep well of inner strength, even if we are unaware that it exists. And when we marshal that deep well of inner strength, we can overcome just about any adversity in our life. And if we
that's
can
it.
just remember that, oh man, yeah, this is awful, but I can deal with it. I'm not quite sure how right now. I'll figure something out and it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's just our lifestyle. It doesn't promote that sort of thing. It's
Mm.
more, are you comfortable? Are you secure? Are you safe? But it doesn't, challenge you. It doesn't really
Yeah,
challenge you. It stresses you out. Yeah. Because you're chasing money or chasing
right.
job or whatever, power, fame, but this is more real, in terms of like survival, and you're just eat, sleep, and walk, and simple life. Meet new people all the time who share your experience, which is why I think hikers, the community is so strong because you share their same experience. Out in civilized life, everybody's here, there, everywhere, but here it's
Hmm.
this focus. And again, it could be that way. It could be if we all paid more attention to the planet, to the environment, which supports us, then we could be better off instead of like chasing illusions.
One
So,
of the things that I decided to do as a result of uh, thinking about my accident and my life and so forth was to, when I go out in the world, I say hi to people. And I make a point when I go to the grocery store or someplace else just to say hi to somebody. And if I can figure out some nice little thing to say to the cashier at the grocery store, just like, thank you, I appreciate your being here. And not some sort of schmaltzy thing, but something that's genuine for me, or if it's some little humorous thing. And and just that little thing, I think, just helps the world be a more pleasant place to be in. And that, how much effort does it take on my part to say hello to somebody or to say thank you for being here? I appreciate it.
yeah, you notice when you get more into the country, I mean, you meet somebody on the road or you always say hi, but more gradually you get into the city, nobody cares about anything. So there's a phenomena like that where you always say hi to the hikers. You always say hi. I mean, that's just
Mm-hmm.
you never just get to walk by them. But the more
Right,
people there are, more distractions there are. Yeah, the less interest you have in each other and the support you give each other. That's just the way it is. But again, it doesn't have to be that way.
right.
Okay, so is your wife going too, right?
Yes, Betsy's not as much of a long distance hiking fanatic as I am, but she wants to go. So our goal is to hike an average of 14 miles a day, which is not all that far. So that's okay with her. And there on the Camino, we won't carry a tent. We won't carry a lot of water. We won't carry a lot of food because we can get all that stuff along the way. So uh, we'll have light packs, maybe with food and water for a day, 14 pounds, something like that. So the hiking itself will be substantially easier. So that's a more agreeable thing as far as my wife is concerned.
What has her experience been with hiking so far?
Oh, we've since we've been married for all these many years, we've gone on many, many hikes together, but they
Okay.
tend to be week long sorts of things.
Hmm.
But she hiked two chunks of the Colorado Trail with me and had a nice time. But the whole idea of sort of day after day after day after day after day is not something that appeals to her all that much. Now for bicycling, she's totally on board with that, but
Okay.
the hiking, not quite so much.
And how old are you all? Can I ask that?
You can ask away.
Will you
Let's
answer it?
see. I've had 76 birthdays, and my wife has had 69 birthdays.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. 76. That's okay. You're going to be setting some records maybe if you
No,
keep it
maybe.
up. If you keep it up, I mean,
Well, I am highly motivated to do that. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I'm not 65 anymore,
Uh-huh.
and I can tell that I just don't have the stamina that I used to have. And when I was hiking the Continental Divide Trail a couple of years ago, I fell, and I think that did some bad things to my right hip that I have not fully recovered from. So you got to deal with stuff like that, but it's worth it just because being outside and seeing all these wonderful folks and listening to the birds and seeing the plants, and
Good.
I just want to do that. So I'm highly motivated because I know that experience is so meaningful to me, and I'll be a better person for it.
Right. And do you have kids too, or?
Hmm. Yes, two grown kids. And they, when we were younger parents, the kids went on the trips and all. Sometimes with not particularly much enthusiasm,
Yeah, yeah.
but now, somewhat ironically, they're both outdoor types and do as much hiking as they can work in, given their work world and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
the son I went on the PCT with, and now he's a trail crew maintenance guy in Santa Clara County. He does outdoor work there still, and he just hiked the Arizona Trail from Utah to Mexico, 6 weeks. That
good.
was a beautiful, beautiful trail too. I was going to go
Well,
with him, but I couldn't
I
get.
part of my desire to be well enough, and if Betsy gives me the okay to hike the Arizona Trail next, but March and April, something like that. So that's again part of my motivation to stay healthy and make healthy lifestyle choices as part of my daily existence, so that I can get that done. And also this summer, after we go on the Camino, my goal is to finish the Continental Divide Trail. So I've got lots of outdoor stuff I still want to do.
What have you done uh, to help your body get in shape for these? You mentioned diet, and do you do exercises, or
You
what do you do
bet.
to keep in shape?
Well, I have a program. I go to the YMCA here in Boulder, and I have a program that came out of a book called Framework by a guy named Unuversal or something like that. So I used to do that 3 days a week. Now I do it 2 days a week because I think I need just more time to recuperate after a previous exercise session. So that takes me about an hour twice a week. And then my wife and I go for after meal walks after breakfast, lunch, and dinner to keep our blood sugar under control. Plus, it's nice to get out and see the neighbors and pet the dogs and
Mhm.
enjoy the birds and the bees and all that stuff. And now we're doing more longer walking around Boulder. So when we show up on the Camino next week, then we'll hopefully be ready to go.
And your diet, how did you adjust your diet to, your age
Well,
and
in a
hiking?
lot of ways, much of it was stuff I knew, quote unquote, in some way or another. Like, for example, you hear all the time, eat your vegetables. It's like, oh, come on. Well, it's a big deal. Sorry. And if you don't like vegetables, we'll figure out a way to cook them or eat them such that you will like them and want to eat them. But for me, the major thing was just ramping up the fruits and vegetables and minimizing the refined grains and sugars. Like, for example, for many, many years, I'd have a big bowl of ice cream every night. I love ice cream.
Hmm.
And so I read somewhere not too many years ago that when we eat a bite of something that's really good, that first bite is a killer. Mm, yum. And the second bite is, oh, that's pretty good. And by about the fourth bite, we're just shoveling it in, or at
Hmm.
least I am. So I thought, okay, I'll ask Betsy not to buy ice cream. Well, maybe if people are coming over, we'll buy a little thing of ice cream. And if I find ice cream in the freezer, I'll have one bite, one. And I'll stand there in front of the refrigerator, savoring that bite of ice cream. Boy, is that good. And I'll put the spoon in the sink, and that is it. And I have found that works for me. So I don't feel deprived, because if you feel deprived, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I've learned to uh, cut back my ice cream habit by about 95%. And then it's when like Easter, we went over for a family gathering Easter, and my sister-in-law made a apple pie and had a lime meringue pie. So I ate that, and I don't feel guilty or bad about it because I don't do that very often. So I'm pretty much on the wagon, I'd say about 95% of the time, and I feel better as a consequence. So basically, vegetables, fruits, whole grains. I don't have any gluten intolerance. Beans and nuts. those are the main things I eat.
It's going to be interesting on your new hike here how you deal with because you're going to have a lot of opportunities for different kinds of foods available, you know, on
Right.
trail there.
Yes. I'm I'll eat anything pretty much.
Mhm.
So that's nice. If I can shovel it in and enjoy it. But part of that is I haven't quite figured out how it works in Spain. My understanding is we need to buy food for breakfast the night before, probably because there might not be places open at 7 in the morning. So we'll figure that stuff out when we get there.
Okay. And how long is the trail? How many miles is it?
483,
Okay.
something like that.
So it's going to take a few weeks. And you're in no hurry, right? There's no time limit or anything. Just
We have a return ticket on June 1st.
okay. Okay.
So I guess if we wanted to change that, I guess we could, but that those things tend to be kind of annoying and expensive. So I expect we'll be back home on June the 1st.
Okay. Well, maybe we can catch up when you get back and you can we can have another talk and see how you did.
Yeah, what I learned on the Camino,
Right, right.
of which I'm sure there will be many things which I right now I'm not quite sure what I will have learned.
Well, that's the adventure. Yeah, you don't know what's out there.
Very much so. Yeah, the adventure is just one of those wonderful things that I guess for some people that doesn't it's not very appealing, but for me it is. What's around that next curve? Is this
Exactly.
a climb up to the top of that ridge? Is that really as steep as it looks, or what? I'll find
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. Okay, so we will keep in touch when you get back. If you remember me, let's have another chat.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here, Val. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan. Good
Okie
luck.
doke.
Happy trails.
Okay.